Hi, I wanted to share how I use this triple grid activation as it's the most powerful protection and enhancement I've experienced. I've recommended it to so many people, but I find they don't tend to use it as they don't know how. So this video is purely for demonstration of how I set it up, and it's not necessarily how the creator of this activation intended it. I received this down the line, so a client passed this on to me with high recommendations in my early years of business, and she received it from a local healer. Beyond that, I'm not really sure where the local healer got this. Maybe she got it purely from the book, the original book, or from someone else. But doing a Google search, I finally found the creator of this technique, and it's Tashira Tachi-Ren. And it's actually an excerpt from her book, What is Light Body? I haven't got the book, but I'm highly considering buying it now, if it's got something like this grid in it. I suggest supporting the author of the book and the creator of this grid by buying the book if you really benefit from this technique. In terms of using this grid, my personal benefits have been clearing out old energies in my field, in my house, and this includes thought forms, and that could be non-entities in that case, and just old stagnant energies and beliefs. It's also been beneficial being immune to astrological influences, and I believe that you can do that already with strong will and awareness. However, it seems super easy to do that when the grid's up. You don't really have to think about it or be conscious of it. It's also beneficial in setting up a beautiful event space. You don't have to just limit it to your home. I've used it for workshops, and everything just seems to flow easier and better when there's a grid on. And also I've used it in removing and being invisible to other world visitors. And this is a bit strange if you don't sense them or believe in them. But basically, the stronger your field is and the more refined your aura or vibration is, the harder it is for them to locate you or affect you. But in the case where I've had to use it, or it was given to me, it was in a case of a particular nasty recurrent visitations, and smudging didn't work. Many things didn't work except this grid to keep it at bay, keep everything at bay, and the tinctures, which you can see over there, and also some tuning forks to a lesser extent. This is all based on personal belief systems and my experience, but if you don't believe, you don't need to take it on. But my belief is there are beneficial visitors, neutral visitors, and visitors with not so great intentions. There are visitors who were originally human in form, and then there's non-human. And I'll leave it at that. I don't prefer delving too deep into all of this. It's not a particular part of my services to do this type of work. But my experience is that this grid is strong. Other things I want to say is that I'm going to show you using physical crystals, but if you don't have them, I have an example here where you can use etheric crystals. It might be flipped around, but you can draw it up, but mostly it's just using your imagination, and you are not limited to the amount of crystals that you use, but you can see that I've drawn them all around, and I just put a heart in for the sake of it. But usually 5 or more is good. The more crystals, the longer the grid can hold the intention energy, and I use clear quartz for the formation of the grid, and you just put in the dates of the event or your own name or someone else's name. Alright, so let's look at the physical grid. I used to just do this on a hardcover book and make sure that my family doesn't break the grid by accident. But now I found that I found this old container of my mum's, which I used to hold the grid safely. So just to explain before I go into all of this, so that I don't have to explain it later, but destroyer force there's 3. It's called a triple grid because there's 3 levels of beings that we call on to help formate the grid. The first one are destroyer force angels, and they're a group of beings who help spin out what you don't want, the energies and entities. And then there's the legions of Michael, who are a group of beings who help infuse the energies that you want into the grid and maintain the grid structure. And then lastly, there's circle security, which are a branch of intergalactic beings, and they ensure interdimensional harmony and structure across the grids. the crystals that we use are purely for amplification of this energy and intention. The quartz is to hold the clear quartz I use to hold the overall structure, and then the center crystals for any addition of frequencies that you want. And this is basically the extent of my understanding. I can't explain any more, and perhaps the book gives a more detailed explanation. All right, let's get started. So this is the process that I go through. You can choose your crystals. So here are my clear quartz, and I use them for the basic structure of the grid, and then I add any key crystals. So the ones that I'm going to use for this one, we've got amethyst, rose quartz, and lapis lazuli, just because they're my favorite. I also like this selenite crystal. It absorbs negative energy. It's a beautiful crystal. So you add any crystals that you want. As I said, 5 or more clear quartz are the best. And before you do all that, I usually draw up a plan of my house. In this case, I'm going to do my field and my house. Sometimes I do my family as well, and I'll put that in. So this goes underneath the grid, and I just draw it up so that it's really clear. My intentions are really clear. And then the next step is that I clean each crystal. So I hold it in front of me, and then I proceed to imagine one way that there's different techniques. If you already know how to clear a crystal, it's fine, but I sit there and I imagine a pure waterfall cleansing over the crystal until it starts to feel like it's glowing, or it feels really vibrant. Usually it just starts sparkling more in front of me. Sometimes I muscle test if I'm feeling a little bit out of tune. Then you set up the grid. So I'll just put the lid on top of this. You don't need this container. This is purely just so that I have everything structured. And I like things in order. All right. So I've already cleaned all these crystals, so I'm going to put them all in. Some of these were all given from different locations, so some of them are different sizes, but it doesn't really matter too much. Then I put the other crystals I want in the center. There you go, that should be it. And it has a nice star formation because I only have 5 clear quartz anyway. So, and then once that's all formed, then you can start the actual triple grid process. So I believe that the original text didn't have, I say my field, my house, and my family, but I think it just says your field, if I'm correct. I don't know. So, but just imagine that. Also with each of the ones where you're adding in a list of things that you want to spin out or infuse, they're open to you adding more in if you want. So the rest is really simple after the setup. And what I do is I just use my hand to circle around as I do it, just to hold my intention. But I say, Legions of Michael, grid level 1, spherical, my field, my house, and my family. Destroyer Force Angels, grid level 2, spherical, my field, my house, and my family. Circle Security, grid level 3, spherical, my field, my house, and my family. I won't keep doing that because that's probably really annoying, but just imagine that I'm continuing to do that. And then the next part is Destroyer Force Angels. Please spin your grid, spinning out astral entities, adverse EMFs, fear, disharmony, anger, adverse astrological influences, expectation, frustration, viruses, fungi, bacteria, worry, astral distortions, miscommunication, sadness, enemy patterning, scarcity, loneliness, karmic monads, and anything that distorts a spiritual signature or clear communication with spirit. Spin out anything that hasn't been mentioned in this or in any other language, but which you know needs to leave this space at this time. And then I say, please spin your grid. And I imagine there's a macabre or something. Please spin your grid. And I just sit and let it spin till I feel like the energy's moved. Usually it's my home, usually I'm sitting in my home, so that helps. Just keep going and just keep imagining it spinning, like the momentum of the spinning of that structure helps everything just that doesn't belong is spun out. And then you go, when that's finished, reverse spin, same stuff. Same thing, except it's spinning in the opposite direction. And then when that feels complete, end with stop spin, thank you, destroy false angels. Then you go with the next one, and then again I'm using my hand over in a circle. Legions of Michael, please infuse your grid with the energies of grace, purity, faith, hope, peace, harmony, love, and victory Elohim. Infuse with love, intimacy, the united chakra, centeredness, clarity, full connection with spirit, tolerance, clear communication, health, wealth, following spirit without hesitation, mastery, sovereignty, living heaven, and anything else that hasn't been mentioned in this or in any other language, but which you know needs to be in the space at this time. Please seal your grid. Thank you, Legions of Michael. And then the last part, and in the previous ones you can add whatever you want, like that is particular to your situation that might not be mentioned. And the last part is circle security. Realign your grid to harmonize with upper dimensional grid works. Release all distortions and parasites on the grid. Infuse frequencies for clearer communication with spirit. Seal grid. Thank you. Thank you, circle security. Thank you, Legions of Michael. Thank you, destroy false angels. And that's about it. I put the grid aside where it can't be affected or touched or knocked. And then I also muscle test. So if you have a muscle, like usually just to sense how long this grid will stay intact before the energies start to dissolve. And it depends on how many people you've put in or the amount of dates and in what type of space and area that you put in, that it usually dilutes the amount or reduces the amount of time. But I might muscle test this one, so I use this one. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days done. So that's the whole procedure. With this grid formation, I did it for about a whole year on a weekly basis, and it was very helpful. But after a while, I didn't feel I needed to do this process so consistently anymore. I felt that there were changes to my auric field. Maybe it was just a bad astrological year. Definitely the visitors decreased over time and things like that. So, I mean, I hope this has been helpful for you. I hope it's been clear and beneficial. You will understand better when you give it a go. So, but any questions, feel free to ask. I say again, this isn't created by me. This is just how I deal with the triple grid process that was channeled by Tashira Tachi-Ren. All right. Thanks for listening. Bye.